You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Thailand is no stranger to political turmoil. The past 2 weeks have added some key chapters to a long and dramatic story.
One of Thailand's most influential and divisive political figures has been sent to jail. The Supreme Court sentenced former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to a year in prison, ruling that his 6-month hospital stay in 2023 did not count as time served.
That court ruling came after Thaksin's daughter, Thaksin Shinawatra, was removed as prime minister by Thailand's constitutional court. Judges ruled she made an ethics violation after a compromising phone call with Cambodia's former leader Hun Sen. The Thai legislature then chose PM Anutin Chanwirakul as the country's new leader, its third premier in 2 years. Another election is expected soon, and so the country, known as the Land of Smiles, is seeing its facade fractured once again by deep political divisions. I'm Teresa Tang. CNA's Saksith Saiyasombut joins me today from Bangkok to talk about the future of Thai politics and the Shinawatra dynasty. Saksith, hi. You have kept up with every twist and turn of this political drama.
Hello from the land of France, rather, at this point.
Okay, let's start with Thaksin's verdict. You were outside the court when the former leader arrived. Some weren't even sure if he would be there after a quick trip abroad to Dubai and Singapore, but he was. Tell me, what was it like when he showed up? And can you describe the mood when the verdict came down?
I think to set the scenes and to put it in a bigger context, especially for us journalists, this has been just the latest in a series of political developments that have been dragged out over weeks and months. And so you can imagine that a lot of us that have been covering Thai politics are pretty tired at this point, having followed one thing after another. And this court case against Thaksin was the peak, so to speak. So we were at the Supreme Court early in the morning. Some of them were pre-dawn just to get a good spot. So we waited. And journalism, as a lot of people know, is consisting of 90% of waiting for something to happen. But then eventually Thaksin came around and we were told in advance that yes, he's going to come. He's definitely going to face the verdict. This quick trip abroad was temporary, to say the least. Thaksin himself drove up in his luxury limousine straight up in front of the gate, got out of his car. His daughters, Patternton included, the former prime minister, they came out, waved to the press, and then immediately went inside. Now, I wasn't in the courtroom when that happened because I had to be on air, but my colleague Teresa, she went inside and she listened to the verdict. She later described to me the mood that Thaksin, for the most part, remained calm, almost stoic. There was only one part during the verdict reading. They had to excuse themselves to the bathroom, but then he came back. And when the actual verdict fell, when the actual hammer dropped, she told me that Thaksin also, again, remained calm and didn't react in a big way. But his daughter, Patternton, actually did. She came over him. She was pretty emotional about it. They saw that Thaksin whispered something to her. Nobody heard exactly what happened. What struck me was how Thaksin went into the court building and how he got out of the court building. So he was wearing a tailored suit with a yellow necktie. But then we saw pictures of him going out of the building through the back door on a prison van without his necktie and without his suit jacket that he gave to his daughter. So in a way, it appears to me that he took this verdict on the chin. So after Thaksin was brought out of the court and into prison, we saw his daughter, Patternton, come out to us. You could literally see it on her face, how much that really bothers her. She was pretty much distraught. And still, she came to the press and talked to us, and this is what she had to say.
Today is another historic day that a Thai Prime Minister has to be in prison for the first time. This weighs heavily, however, we remain in good spirits, both my father and our family. My family and I are worried about him, but we are also proud that he has created a lot of history in our country, including useful policies that benefited the people.
A couple minutes later, we hear from Pheu MP Kokkyal Phikuntong, a brother-in-arms of Thaksin's political career, so to speak. This is the description of how he saw the man and how he reacted to all this.
As I came down, I got a chance to speak to Thaksin Shinawatra. He looks fine, still braving a smile, and told us it's okay. He came back, and he's ready to face all kinds of situations, for better or worse.
Given Thaksin has avoided jail in the past, it's not surprising some may be skeptical that the billionaire will actually spend a full year behind bars this time around. Saksith, is there any recourse? Can he appeal the decision? Can he receive some sort of royal clemency to reduce that time? We also talked about how he made an abrupt departure from Thailand about a week before his court date. He did return a day before his verdict was announced, and that really squashed speculation that he was going back into self-imposed exile. Can you also walk us through what you know of Thaksin's strategy?
So in order to understand the whole thing, we need to take a step back and look at the case itself. So Thaksin came back in August 2023 after 15 years of self-imposed exile. He was immediately convicted for past crimes, including abuse of power and corruption. He was sentenced to 8 years in jail, but the first night back on Thai soil, he didn't spend it in a jail cell. He was immediately sent and rushed to a hospital because he was found to be critically ill. That is the wording that was used at that time. So he spent the next 6 months in the VIP wing of a downtown Bangkok hospital, out of the limelight. But people were wondering if this was some sort of special and preferential treatment. His sentence was cut short to 1 year, and he was released on parole after 6 months. So the clemency that you mentioned, he already got that clemency. So when Thaksin suddenly went abroad a couple of days before the verdict, and also on the eve of the prime minister's vote in parliament, a lot of people thought that, things are falling apart from him and he's making a run again. You mentioned before, he did that in 2008 and he was gone out of the country for 15 years. Also, the way that it was communicated to us, that he said that, I'm going for a health checkup in Singapore, but then suddenly he lands in Dubai. You don't fill a private jet plane with some room to spare just to go, let's make a right turn here and go to Dubai. That's why a lot of people were raising their eyebrows. And that's why people were also skeptical that he was actually going to come back. But, to the surprise of many people, he actually came back and he was actually facing the music. So in a way, we were thinking that, he must have cut some sort of deal because he always does, right? He always has been given some assurances that it won't be that bad. But the reading at that time before the verdict was that he was going to get acquitted. So for many of us, we were surprised that he actually was sentenced to actual jail and that he was actually going to do jail time for 1 year. And why 1 year? Because that was the reduced sentence that he already received with his royal clemency. But a lot of people, me included, we think that there is a possibility that he might not spend that full year in prison, that there is a possibility that he might be released sooner one way or another through some sort of clemency or some sort of pardon.
Yeah, you never really know with Thaksin. And that brings me to my next question about the Shinawats. They are one of the most powerful political dynasties in Thai politics. And some have said, Thaksin is politically impotent right now. And you talked about that yellow tie he wore to court. I want to talk about that. It's yellow. That is a royal color. And the yellow shirts were the ones who paved the way for his and his sister Yingluck's overthrow decades ago. With this ruling, Saksith, and the ousting of his daughter, Paetongtarn, where does it leave Thaksin and his family?
The short answer is that Thaksin and the Shinawats are politically severely compromised. Their influence has been in terminal decline for quite some time already. And when he came back 2 years ago, we had the impression that this is his end game, so to speak, that he came back to Thailand basically for his last political chapter and also the last chapter of his life. He's 76 years old after all. And it's interesting that you were pointing out the yellow necktie. I mean, you said yourself, yellow is the color of the officially revered monarchy. Thaksin in the past was accused of being disloyal to the monarchy. But at the end of the day, Thaksin is just as much part of the conservative establishment as other powerful families as well. But of course, he wore that necktie as a sign, right? Saying that either he's loyal or that he has some sort of good signal from upstairs, so to speak. The funny thing is that the Pheu Thai party that he established 30 years ago was a disruptive force in Thai politics, just as much as Thaksin himself was a disruptive force. The irony here is that he and the Pheu Thai party, over the course of the last couple of years, have become just as much part of the establishment that they were not part of in the past. And so basically, in other words, he and the Pheu Thai party have been co-opted because there are new disruptive political forces like the People's Party, the Reformist Progressive Platform. And that is the biggest rival to the Pheu Thai party now. If we cast our minds 2 years ago, his return to Thailand, his Pheu Thai party, despite coming second in the elections, forming a government with his former rivals, parties that were involved in the ouster of his governments in the past, that is no coincidence. This was all part of the deal, just as much as his hospital stay to make it feel himself very comfortable for these 6 months in detention. These were all parts of a deal that allowed him to come back, have his party still in power, but he had to share that with his rivals. So this is what we are looking at. So when people say that is the party at its end, it's his influence at its end, yes, Thaksin's influence has been greatly diminished. He is coming out very damaged, and the Pheu Thai party has been co-opted to be part of the establishment just like anybody else. But here's the thing. I would never count out Thaksin. He has survived so many crises, politically and personally, but you can't deny that the hand that he's been dealt with is the worst just one yet. And yet he will still keep on gambling, putting another bet on it. And I'm pretty sure that even from inside the prison cell, he's going to be probably thinking about his next move. For another perspective, we're going to hear from Thitinan Pongsuthirak. He's a political analyst and a professor at Chulalongkorn University, and also actually a personal friend of mine. He has this to say about Thaksin's role in the future of Thai politics.
Going to jail for even a day for Thaksin is really something in Thailand because, he's someone who's been deal making. He came back in August 2023 after the election in a big super deal, we call it. It was thought that his party would lead the government and he would be able to kind of lead Thailand to maybe for economic recovery and so on. But, there were some irregularities that he did not spend one day in jail. So that now has come back to haunt him. I also think that the establishment forces have exhausted him, outlasted him. He was so popular 15 years, 20 years ago, but now he's a shell of himself.
The Shinawat's party, Pheu Thai, is out, Bumjaitai is in, and Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul has 4 months to prove himself before Parliament is dissolved. What do we know about him and his persona?
He's an interesting man. Anutin Chanvirakul and the Bumjaitai party, they were actually part of Thaksin's predecessor parties way back in the past, but then they split off in the 2000s and became a different political party. And the type of politics that Anutin and the Bumjaitai party are doing is, for lack of a better word, very patronage-based and feudalistic. What do I mean with that? It's not based on ideology. It's based on who do you know who? What big families in what places in the country are you linking up with? And this Bumjaitai party, their home base is in Buriram province. By the way, the birthplace of Lisa from Blackpink. And that is their home base, and it's a regional powerhouse, a relatively middle-sized party that is now becoming a big party that is in control of the government. And this is quite a big switch for them. This is the kind of party that is actually always happy to come in second or third in national elections because that means they become a kingmaker. But now they are at the top. So now they're actually in control of the government. And Anutin himself, he is a very shrewd political operator, a little bit wily even to the point it says, because he's the type of person who says like, I'm friends with everybody, I don't have any enemies, because the way he operates, he cannot afford to have enemies because yesterday's enemies can become tomorrow's friend in that sense. So this is why he is the kind of person that, in the same way that Bumjaitai doesn't have a political ideology, can link up with almost anybody. And so this is why we have now a complete motley crew of political parties that is forming an interim minority government. I think this is the important point that we have to point out. An interim minority government that is going to rule for the next 4 months because that is a part of an agreement with the biggest bloc in parliament, the People's Party, that progressive reformist party that I mentioned before. They said that okay, we are going to give you our 140 plus MPs to you for you to become prime minister, but you have to promise us to call for snap elections within 4 months and introduce constitutional reforms. We're not going to join your government. We're not going to be part of your government. We don't want any cabinet seats. And you can actually tell that during the prime minister's vote, because in Thailand, it's a roll call. Everybody gets called up and they have to verbally declare their choice of votes. You have many MPs coming up and saying, for new elections and constitutional reform, Anutin. Not full conviction. It's basically like, yeah, just because of that. I'm only voting for him because of that, but I don't really like him. That is basically what the mood was. So now we have a new government. 4 months is not a lot. It's not a lot of time that they can do. And as you mentioned, this country is facing a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. We have that border conflict with Cambodia, where a lot of people say that the Patterton government has fallen to. We have economic problems that is still in a slump after the pandemic. Tourism is one of the biggest moneymakers here in Thailand, and that is not doing so well. So that is a huge problem for Thailand. And let's not also forget that Thailand is also dealing with the tariffs from the United States as well. So lots of things to do for the new government in a very short period of time. But then the problem is also then, given that they are going to dissolve the parliament in 4 months, hopefully, and from the perspective of the People's Party, they have also already prepared for the next elections as well. So that government has its hands full. Nevertheless, Anutin, when he accepted the royal command to form the new government, he is very aware of those challenges, and this is what he said.
Although I don't have much time, I'm confident that I'll get support from all sides. I'll work to my fullest capabilities. 4 months is short, so I and the cabinet won't have a day off, a holiday, or if possible, we won't get sick. No holiday. No day I'll say I need to take time off with my family, except for time I need to rest as my body commands.
For the casual observer, Saksith, Thai politics is really chaotic. This revolving door of prime ministers, powerful dynastic influences, coups. Why are things so turbulent? And could you point to something that could bring some stability to the country?
That is the million-dollar question, right? Teresa, Thai politics and its messiness, that's a feature, not a bug. Let's not forget, we had a military coup in 2014 that chased out the government of Thaksin's sister, Yingluck. And the thinking behind that is elected lawmakers, elected politicians, they're corrupt, they're no good. We need to put guardrails on them. And the guardrails are put in that constitution that we are seeing right now. And this makes elected governments very vulnerable to court decisions by other so-called independent government agencies that are not elected by the people, that they have no oversight. Basically, there are no watchmen to watch the watchman in that sense. So this is what we are dealing with, this messiness. But then on the other hand, of course, the politicians and the elected lawmakers, they're not helping themselves either, because Thai politics doesn't have a strong ideological tradition. Of course, the argument can be made, given that we had so many military coups over the decades, you can't really have a political culture that is born and bred and cultivated in parliament. And then we have Thaksin, as we mentioned before, somebody who is a huge disruptor of Thai politics in the past 20 years, for better or worse. He was somebody who has introduced tailor-made policies for an electorate that has been long neglected by Bangkok. But he didn't do that because he was altruistic. He did that because it's an electorate that he was tapping into that. But the problem also is that Thaksin, the person, is a huge micromanager. He cannot let a lot of things go. And he still is that kind of micromanager when he came back, when he got out of hospital detention, when he hit the speaker circuit and was giving unsolicited advice to the government, especially to his daughter, about what they are supposed to be doing about certain policies. And guess what? That policies were also then formulated and then pitched in parliament. So the influence of people like Thaksin, patriarchs, so to speak, still wears heavily on Thai politics as well. You said it yourself that this is the third prime minister that we had in 2 years. And all of that does not reflect the result of the elections that we had over 2 years ago. The two biggest party, they're not in power anymore. The biggest party is in opposition and doesn't have much to say at this point. So this is why everybody is also gunning for snap elections next year, for the great big reset next year. I've been covering Thai politics for 15 years now. And yeah, it always appears to be very chaotic. It always appears to be very messy. And yeah, I agree to that in a way that it's not very easy for the casual observers. Even a lot of Thais themselves are usually checked out when they see this happening.
It is such an intriguing time in Thailand right now. Much more to unfold, that's for sure. Always a pleasure, Saksith. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being with me for this special episode on the CNA Correspondent podcast. It's brought to you by Saya Win, Clara Ong, Tiffany Ang, Junani Johari, Pei Ning Ho, Nat Feltavaro, and Craig Dale. I'm Teresa Tang. Bye for now.